A very good evening. I'm Kingsley Olwoko. President Uhuru Kenyatta has commissioned the Mashujaa State-of-the-Art Uhuru Gardens National Monument and Museum. The facility is set to act as an archive of Kenya's history since 1800. The museum will include a hall of legends which will showcase the lives of Kenya's legendary ancestors, including Mzee Jomo Kenyatta, Mekatilili Wamenza, Koitalel Arap Samoei, Jaramogi Oginga Odinga, and Nabongo Mumia, among others. Kenyatta further commended all parties that put in the effort to rehabilitate the iconic Uhuru Gardens.
Pearl Newsbeat.
Chief Justice Martha Koome has picked a three-judge bench to hear a case seeking to have persons with integrity issues blocked from vying in the 2022 general elections. The judges who will hear 8 consolidated petitions include presiding David Majanja, Chacha Mwita and Mugure Thande. The High Court last week declined to bar the Independent Electoral and Boundaries Commission from clearing Sonko to contest for Mombasa gubernatorial seat. 2 petitioners had sought prayers to stop IEBC from declaring or publishing Sonko in the Kenya Gazette as a candidate until a petition challenging his sustainability is heard and determined. Instead, the court directed that the petition will be consolidated with another 2 similar petitions filed in Eldoret. The CJ and DPP have maintained that impeached governors and convicted politicians should be barred from holding public offices until their names and verdicts are cleared and appended by the court.
Pearl Newsbeat.
Moving on, National Treasury Cabinet Secretary Ukur Yatani now wants Parliament to raise the country's debt ceiling from 9 to 10 trillion shillings. In a Gazette notice, Yatani wants Parliament to amend the Public Finance Management Regulations of 2015 to increase the debt ceiling by 1 trillion. This, he says, will allow the government room to borrow more to finance the 3.33 trillion shillings budget for the 2022-2023 financial year. The request is, however, expected to meet mixed reactions and also be a topic of discussion in the current campaign period. Most of the members of parliament have castigated the government in the past for borrowing commercial loans that have a higher repayment value compared to concessional loans. The government has been on the receiving end for not accounting for the loans that most of the time end up being misappropriated. The request by the Treasury must, however, be passed by National Assembly and the Senate to allow for borrowing.
Pearl Newsbeat.
The Azimio la Umoja One Kenya presidential candidate Raila Odinga has promised to publish what he will do in the country in the next 100 days if he is elected president in the coming 9th of August general elections. Raila was speaking at the European Business Council meeting in Nairobi, where he also vowed to present his papers to the Independent Electoral and Boundaries Commission come Sunday. The former premier has also vowed to further the country's Vision 2030 plan if he will be elected president. He also addressed key issues of infrastructure, bureaucracy and corruption.
In terms of infrastructure, we are actually going to invest on improvement of infrastructure in the country. So we are actually continuing from where this outgoing government is leaving. We are actually premised on what we call Vision 2030. Vision 2030 had 3 key pillars: economic, social, and intellectual. These 3 pillars we started implementing when we were in the government.
Odinga said he has heard the cries of investors and the youths who wish to start up their businesses, vowing to ease in their prerequisite requirements.
Customs, which I know is a problem to businessmen. Then the issues of immigration, the processing of work permits in the country. I know this is also a challenge. But I want to give you an assurance that we are going to address these issues to make it easier for investors and workers or companies which have invested in this country to receive work permits as quickly as possible. Also, the startups, registration of new companies in the country, we're going to make it much easier.
Meanwhile, Transport Cabinet Secretary James Macharia has asked those using the expressway to adopt cards over cash to make payment. The Transport CS said there has been traffic at the entry points of the highway caused by motorists who are using cash. Speaking at Makui in Murang'a County, Macharia has, however, exuded confidence that by the end of this year, more than 1,000 motorists will be using the card system.
We have achieved 31,000 vehicles in one day, which is a record. And so what we have to do now is to make sure people take ETC. Don't go there with cash. The cash is what is creating a jam on the exits. So please, Kenyans, go for the card. With that, we shall reach 100,000 cards by December. And then from there, there'll be no traffic jams anymore.
In efforts by Pearl Radio to empower its listeners ahead of the forthcoming general elections, Kibera and Langata constituencies residents are undergoing a rigorous training in partnership with Kleos Trade and Consultancy on voter education, rights and governance. The director of Kleos Trade and Consultancy, Dr. Melania Platis, said the initiative is meant to voice the grievances of the locals to political aspirants.
Yeah, so we are working, Kleos is working with CBCK, which is the organisation we're standing in today, and Pearl Radio, yourselves, and we thought that it would be a very useful exercise to come into the community and hear the issues that people have, the questions they want answered. So it's not us directing the questions, it's the community themselves who we are asking what they think the issues are and what they would like political representation to achieve for them. So that's what we're doing. We're pulling together a questionnaire of all the key questions that participants in the community want to ask of politicians.
Dr. Platis was speaking at the Mugumoini Community Centre in Kibera, where she listed the issues of the slum dwellers demanding to be addressed by the aspiring political leaders if they're elected.
Yesterday we had an event here where we spoke to quite a number of the community of all ages and both genders, and they had a lot of different issues depending on their ward. We are currently collecting the data and we will map the issues to the different wards or villages. But lots of things came up. Housing, of course, structures, water quality, sanitation, collection of taka, the way that the roads are, the different barabaras and how people can get around or can't get around, the proximity of the buildings to one another, safety, gangs and just security going out at night if you're sick, being able to take sick people to the hospital, lots of issues, and we will be collecting more.
Still on this news, Prince Wanjiri, who is a resident of the Kibera slums, outlined the lessons that they have obtained from the training by Kleos Trade and Consultancies.
Kwangu kitu cha kwanza ni ya kwamba we were taught rights, haki, ya kwamba kama the political leaders si wao watueleze, they are not the ones to tell us kile ambacho tunahitaji, ni sisi wakuje for us, wakuwe na ile tunahitaga the felt needs, ya kwamba sisi tueleze ni kitu gani tunataka. Kama tutaki barabara, wasitupe barabara. Kama tunataka maji, tukitaka watoto wasome, wasitueleze yale watatutendea, bali ni sisi tuwaeleze ni mambo gani ambayo tunataka.
A councillor appealed to the aspirants to get to the core of the problems facing the residents, asking them to identify the best means to tackle their issues around the period they will be in office.
I think basically the first thing we should know, how much are you in touch with the people who are locals who have elected you? Because you cannot be elected, then you assume the people who have elected you. Maybe you don't use the word, you flee away. Then you come after 5 years. I think it's good for when we elect you, you stay together with the staff. Say that I'm a councillor. These people always come to us crying, we elected so and so, and we cannot see him, cannot access him anymore. For now, as politics are going on, politicians are very available for us. But after 5 years, after this election, you'll see them again 2027, which is not good.
And now across the borders, millions of people face severe hunger in the Horn of Africa as the worst drought in more than 40 years could extend to a fifth consecutive failed rainy seasons, as the United Nations warned humanitarian agencies. The March to May rainy season appears likely to be the driest on the record, devastating livelihoods and deepening a humanitarian emergency in Ethiopia, Somalia, and parts of Kenya, including a risk famine in Somalia. That's the news. Are up to date at 8 minutes past 7. Good evening, I'm Kingsley Olboko.
Pearl Newsbeat.